President Trump is zeroing in on the next targets of his revenge campaign. He is now calling for the criminal prosecution of Biden-era Justice Department officials Christopher Wray, Jack Smith, Merrick Garland, and Lisa Monaco, falsely claiming that they rigged the 2020 election. Quick fact check for everyone. Trump was, in fact, the president during that election, and Smith, Garland, and Monaco were not even in power. They were all private citizens. In another effort to set the record straight, Special Counsel Jack Smith said this week he wants to testify before the House and Senate Judiciary Committees publicly. All of that to address what his team has called the many mischaracterizations of his investigation into Donald Trump. Joining us now to discuss this and more, Congressman Jamie Raskin of Maryland, who is the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee. Congressman, it's great to have you back on the show. Let's start with Jack Smith. What do you make of him saying that he is willing to testify publicly after your Republican colleague, Jim Jordan, demanded his closed-door testimony? What do you make of this level of transparency that I would argue probably is not something Republicans want?
Well, we're all for it. The last 5 or 6 special counsels have all testified publicly before our committee. In fact, it's a tradition that goes back to Ken Starr. They come forward and they release the reports of their investigations, and they talk about the investigations, and they're allowed to be, cross-examined by members of the opposing party. And that's exactly what Jim Jordan wants to do. The problem is that they're afraid he's going to be way too convincing and way too compelling when he actually gets to appear before the public. So they'd rather take this or that distorted snippet from some backroom grilling and then release it and claim they found something. We know this charade pretty well from them by now. So I think everybody should be demanding that he be given the right to testify publicly in front of the whole Congress and the whole world.
Congressman, one major complaint that a lot of Republican lawmakers have made about Jack Smith is that he subpoenaed some lawmakers' phone records from, I believe it was January 4th to 7th, 2021. Senator Josh Hawley actually accused Smith of tapping his phone. Take a listen.
Yesterday, we learned that the FBI tapped my phone, tapped Lindsey Graham's phone, tapped Marsha Blackburn's phone, tapped 5 other phones of United States senators.
So what actually happened? Can you explain what happened here? And I'm curious, would you object if a special counsel sought a similar subpoena against your phone records?
If I were involved in a violent insurrection and a political coup against the United States government, I would hope that they would do what they did in this case, which is to subpoena the pen record, which is the record of the phone calls. There's no tap about it. And if there's any evidence for what he's saying, he should release it immediately. Otherwise, he should just apologize and retract it because it's a lie, unless he knows something that we don't know. But look, meantime, we've got the Trump administration, which is not only investigating the phone records of my colleague Monica MacGyver, it has already brought a criminal prosecution against her, threatening to send her to jail for 17 years. And that's on utterly trumped up fraudulent charges. But under the Biden administration, Senator Menendez from New Jersey was prosecuted. They subpoenaed all kinds of evidence from him, including phone records and emails and other kinds of evidence. And they sent him to jail because he was engaged in criminal activity. So, it strikes me as just utterly bizarre that they would be sitting there while Donald Trump is demanding the prosecution of anybody he's ever disliked in his life. And that prosecution obviously involves the collection of all kinds of evidence. And they're going back to talk about January 6th because, like criminals returning to the scene of the crime, they obsessively go back to this event that they were all implicated in different ways. And remember, 140 of our police officers were wounded and injured. The House and the Senate members were driven out of their chambers, including Speedy Josh Hawley. And they chanted, hang Mike Pence. They tried to assassinate and hang the vice president of the United States. So do we want a criminal investigation about that? I imagine we would if we wanted about anything. Certainly we want a criminal investigation about that before we want an investigation of Monica MacGyver, who was out just doing her oversight duties as a member of Congress to investigate what is taking place in an ICE facility under a statutory authorization that all of us have to go to those facilities whenever we want.
Congressman, let's talk now about Donald Trump's interesting request that he is owed $230 million in legal fees in payment from the Department of Justice. And you and Congressman Garcia have launched an investigation, but obviously this seems like an absolute ethical tripwire. You've got the fact that the Department of Justice is headed by an appointee that is one of his people. You've got the ethics people who've signed off on it. What's the deal? Is there any possibility that this could just happen and the American taxpayer would find out about it in retrospect?
Well, not in any world of justice. It couldn't happen, but it could happen in Trump world. Now, understand what he's suing about. He's suing because he doesn't like the fact that a judge issued a search warrant for his house. It was properly written. It was properly executed. That happens hundreds of thousands of times a year in the United States of America. If everybody can sue for $230 million, it will very quickly bankrupt the American government. If you can file a claim with the government and get a backroom shadowy deal and have them write you a check for $230 million. So there's nothing to the complaint. And Donald Trump knows that, which is why he could have gone to court after waiting 90 days. But after 90 days elapsed, he didn't go to court. No judge is involved in this. No jury's involved in this. The public has no advocate. He's going to his own Deputy Attorney General, Todd Blanche, who did Trump's dirty work in the Ghislaine Maxwell transfer to the summer camp prison in Texas from her current assignment. Because he liked what she had to say, or he liked what she didn't have to say about Donald Trump's involvement with Epstein. But in any event, he goes to Blanche. Blanche can literally sign off on this $230 million utterly fraudulent claim from top to bottom. One thing that's especially fraudulent about it is they're asking for $85 million in punitive damages. Punitive damages are not even allowed against the federal government. That's specifically prohibited in the Federal Tort Claims Act that they're using to file this petition under. So it is indeed an ethical imbroglio to go to his own Deputy Attorney General, who had been his private defense lawyer. Obviously, he should be recused immediately, but even beyond all that other stuff, it is absolutely unconstitutional for him to get $1 from the federal government beyond his official salary. And you can check that out in Article 2, Section 1, Clause 7 of the Constitution, which says that the president may not collect any other emolument or payment from the federal government beyond his official salary. They can't pay him any less, and they can't pay him any more.
Not to mention, Congressman, we haven't even been able to talk about the demolition of the East Wing and this very expensive ballroom that's being constructed. It seems like it goes up by another $50 million every time you blink. You know, for some Americans, I think the destruction of the East Wing maybe seems like the least of their problems with everything going on in the country right now. But can you speak at all to its significance and also what you make of some of the corporations who are backing this?
Yeah. Well, it's just a statement that Donald Trump can do whatever he wants, and it's a lawless administration, and it's very graphic demonstration of that assertion by the Trump administration, and it has made millions and millions of people heartsick in the country across the political spectrum to see him bring a bulldozer to the East Wing of the White House when most people in America, can't refinish their garage or expand their house for a bedroom that they need without going through a permitting process, and Donald Trump just orders it. The idea that he's going to pay for it either through this outrageous shakedown of the taxpayers. This is like when he says, oh, well, I'm just going to give this $230 million to charity. I'm sorry, you can't accept a bribe or a kickback or an illegal payment and saying, I'm going to give it to charity. That is still illegal, even if you're going to give it to someone else. And of course, there's a lot of reason to think he's not going to do that anyway. But even if he's going to shake down Google and X and other mega corporations for that money. I'm sorry, this is a democracy. The taxpayers can handle it. We will pay for our own White House. We will pay for our own U.S. Capitol. We don't want to have a Google East Wing of the White House. We don't want corporate naming rights to different parts of the federal government.
And Congressman, we have to disclose and be upfront about the fact that our parent company, Comcast, is one of those donors.
Congressman Jamie Raskin, thank you. Go on. Sorry.
Yeah, I would just say about that, any corporation that wants to donate to the U.S. Treasury, great, but no money can be spent by the federal government that is not appropriated by Congress. So, basically, we just want corporations to pay their fair share of taxes. Pay your taxes, we'll be fine. But if you want to give extra money, great. Give it to the Treasury, and then the Congress of the United States, the representatives of the people, will decide what to do with it.
We'll let our bosses know.
Congressman Jamie Raskin, thank you so much for joining us.